Shalom. So we're going to look at baalzebub, flying spirits, or the Lord of the Flies, right? Now, there's this concept of one God, which is very problematic in the Western world, because if there's only one God, then how do you explain idolatry? And I'm not talking about deifying an object. I'm talking about spirits, right? Powers. No, there's a difference with saying there are other gods, but they are just none in equal power to that creator, Yahweh, right? But there are other gods. We saw it over and over, and we're going to go through a few precepts now, because we're going to look at flying spirits. Just as you have water spirits, you have spirit from the earth, you have spirit from above, and different areas, right? So we're just going to look at flying spirits. Now, a lot of you might not believe in certain things, and this puts a limitation on your understanding, because you're trying to put powers, infinite powers, to the limitation of your own mind, right? And this is where a lot of people struggle with this unbelief, because just because you might not understand how it works, or just because you might not believe it, you actually equate that to it not being real, or it does not exist. And that's something that you have to sever. Just because you don't believe in something does not mean that it is not true, right? So we're going to read Exodus chapter 8, and we're going to start at verse 21. It says, matter of fact, let's start at 20. And the Lord said unto Moses, Rise up early in the morning, and stand before Pharaoh. Lo, he cometh forth to the water, and say unto him, Thus saith the Lord, Let my people go, that they may serve me. Else, if thou wilt not let my people go, behold, I will send swarms of flies upon thee, and upon thy servants, and upon thy people, and into thy houses, and the houses of the Egyptians shall be full of swarms of flies, and also the ground whereon they are. And I will sever in that day the land of Goshen, that is where the Israelites dwell, in which my people dwell, that no swarms of flies shall be there, to the end thou mayest know that I am the Lord in the midst of the earth. And I will put a division between my people and thy people. Tomorrow shall this sign be. So the Most High is putting a distinction between the Israelites and the Egyptians. Right now, he's doing all of this to the end that something might be revealed. Right? Because remember, the magicians were doing most of the works that Moses was doing. But there was something particular that Moses had the power to do that the magicians or the sorcerers did not have such power to do, right? So we're going to see that the God of the Egyptian is different from the God of the Hebrews. It says, And the Lord did so, and there came a grievous swarm of flies into the house of Pharaoh, and into his servant's house, and into all the land of Egypt. The land was corrupted by reason of the swarm of flies. Verse 25 says, And Pharaoh called for Moses, right? Now, why would you call for Moses then? Why would, throughout all these plagues, you have to get Moses to tell his God to stop it? Why did not you use your magicians to stop it? No, the thing is that we're seeing is that there are other gods. They are just not equal in power to Yahweh. For example, Moses could turn the water into blood. The magicians could do so. Moses could send for lice or whatever it is. The magicians could do so. He could bring forth frogs. The magicians could do so. But what they could not do is to undo what they did. So they did not have the power to bring back the bloody water into natural fresh water. Moses had that power to do so. So this is a clear distinction that there are other gods. They are just not equal in power to Yahweh. So when you're dealing with flying spirits, right? These are powerful spirits and they can go very far, right? So sometimes they'll attack you. For example, what if someone casts a spell for you to die, right? And you're on a tree, you're on the top of a roof, you are on a ladder, whatever it is. Once that is summoned, then it's going to happen. And these spirits also can alter your thought process, because as you know that air deals with your mental, right? So sometimes you'll hear some people talk. Sometimes it sounds, some part might make sense, but then some part sounds totally crazy, like you can not even perceive what the person is saying. They're mixed up. So these spirits do infiltrate their minds as well. And this is why you see in the scripture it talks about, matter of fact, let's go to Revelation chapter 18 and verse 2. He says, "And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hole of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful birds." These are not literal birds. This is talking about fowls of the heaven. You have fowls of the air. You have fowls of the heaven. You're dealing with spirits. Now let me tell you of a certain experience with someone I know. Well, not the actual person, but I know of the grandmother, and she's still alive today. No, her granddaughter was working as a secretary, and there was a cleaner lady that worked in the office, right? No. Sometimes you hear people talk about cobwebs, and even when you watch horror movies, you notice you always see a lot of cobwebs, right? These things go into spirit, is going back into those flies, right? So something was set for the cleaner lady, right? It's funny. That morning, the cleaner lady showed up late, so the secretary ended up cleaning that area, and it ended up catch her. So these things might come in the form of flies, but they are actually spirits come to destroy you. And just simple as that, innocently she went to clean the office because the other person did not show up. And this also shows you that when you're under the protection of the Most High, the enemy can attack, but they will not harm you. Psalms 91. Dwell in the secret place of the Most High. So yes, because the spirit was summoned to do whatever it was summoned to do, guess what? It had to happen to somebody else who was not fully protected. And this is one of the advantages of Christians, because they pray a lot, regardless of whose name they pray in, because the intention of their heart is to pray to the Creator. So even though they are in idolatry, guess what? The Most High understand their ignorance, but inside their spirit they want to pray to the real God. So they are protected by those very prayers, not because of what they call Jesus, not because of the physical building that they go to on Sundays or Saturdays, but because the intention of their hearts when they do pray, even through that ignorance, the Most High sees what is there inside their spirit. he winks at the ignorance that these people are still in those buildings, these people are still defiling the Sabbath and so forth. But that prayer builds a connection, builds an attachment with the God of this book. They just need to sever ties with the God of their religion, Christianity. Now, when you're dealing with flying spirit, matter of fact, let me just jump to 1 Kings chapter 13 and verse 6, I think. It says, "And the king answered and said unto the man of God, Entreat now the face of the Lord thy God, and pray for me, that my hand may be restored me again. And the man of God besought the Lord, and the king's hand was restored him again, and became as it was before." That was one of the first signs he showed Moses when he told him to put his hand in the bosom, take it out, it was turned into another color. When he put it back in, it turned back to the normal color. So it was showing you that whatever the Most High Yahweh did, he was able to bring it back to what it was before. The sorcerers, the magicians, and those people, they can change things, but they cannot do the restoration. And this is one of the things what he meant when he says there are no other gods equal in power to him. Now, another thing a lot of people tend to confuse is gods and idols. The gods are real, the idols are not. So there's a difference. For example, when you make a pattern of something in the heavens, that thing that you made, that's called an idol. That which is in the heaven is real. So, for example, when the Israelites left Egypt, they made a molten calf. That molten calf is just an idol. It does not have power. It does not move. It does not do this. It does not do that. However, this that you see in the heaven, that they refer to as Taurus, is real. The calf that they made is an idol. Right? So now we're going to look at this. As I said, everything goes back to the elements. Now, when you deal with water spirits, it needs a lot of air, because you know air and water, they're inseparable, right? So a lot of this deals with the burning of incense sometimes, because that inhaling and so forth is good for when you're under attack with water spirits, right? No, when you're under attack from flying spirits, you need water. So this is why baptism is very important. Not the ones that you do in Christian churches, and not the ones that the Hebrews speak against, because it's the same thing. I'm talking about real water baptism, right? Which I explained earlier in other videos. No, it's just as, if you remember the instant when that man was blind, right? when he was blind, the Messiah took up earth, right? He spat on it and he rubbed it in the eye. Earth, right? He rubbed it in the eye so that the man could regain his sight. Now, fire is also connected to your organs. So there's an internal light in each of us. This is the reason why we can perceive the external light. So this will go to the sense of what? Sight. So as you can see how the fire and the earth work together for the healing. And it's the same way with the air and the water. All the elements are interconnected. This is why he said the leaves of the tree were meant for the healing of the nations. Because when you deal with all of this, it goes back to what? Constellations. This is what brings forth fruit every month. Every new moon, the constellation changes. You look to the heaven and you speak in that authority and you give your command. In his name, right? So again, like I said, these things come in different stages, right? So sometimes it can rob you of the senses, right? It can cripple you. It can do whatever it is commanded to do. And based on what type of attack you are under, you can know what to do for healing.